Hello, this is Bob Dennis again with his friend and colleague, Stacey Ravid, Dr. Ravid, to everyone, including me. And we are going to talk today about Dr. Ravid's experiences with how to apply the micropulse device for various applications in different anatomic locations. So go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Dr. Stacey Ravid here. I've interviewed probably close to 100 people now who have used the micropulse. And what I've done is I've created a list of where they've used it and how they've applied it. And that's what we're going to go over. So we're going to go head to toe like we do in critical care nursing. And beginning with the head, we're going to cover headaches, dementia, eyesight, ears, and teeth. So beginning with headaches, many people have used the micropulse to help their headaches. I have the M1 right here. So I have several micropulses. This is one that I use with tape. And the way that people have applied it for headaches is they have put the coils side by side where they have the headache. And they have used tape for this part. I have this special tape here that I got from the pharmacy. It's a clear tape. That's my favorite tape for using the micropulse. You will find that it can leave a little bit of stain on your coils. I gently clean them afterwards every couple of days. And I use the tape like this and apply it to the forehead. Another great way that people have used the micropulse for headaches is that they have a hat. And this is my micropulse hat. I tape the coils inside the cap, and then I put the cap on my head. And I'll sit there and watch TV or work at my computer. I turn on the micropulse, and this has been very good for headaches. I'm not someone who gets headaches, but one of my colleagues, another PhD nurse, has frequent migraines, and she's used the micropulse for headaches, and this is how she does it. So one of the participants used the micropulse to help their mom who had dementia, very, very bad dementia. It was Alzheimer's, and she had outbursts. She was screaming and crying a lot. They didn't want to put her in a facility. And they had used the micropulse on their horse, had great success, and on their dog and on themselves, and they decided to try it on their mom. So what they did was they took the coils and they put it on the back of her head. And they adhered it with an ACE bandage. So there's this, this is actually what they used. And they put it around the head like this, and they attached it in the back, and it held the coils. And they used that 2 hours in the morning on their mom and 2 hours in the evening. So 4 hours a day on the basic setting with the M1. And they said after a week of using that, their mom had calmed down. She didn't have outbursts, and she was able to read a paper and understand what she was reading. So another way to use it for the head is to put the coils, the bumpy side needs to be out, smooth side against the skin. And you can apply them like this, and you can use it in different places around the head, whether it's for headaches or dementia, using it like that. I've used it like this many times. So we're going to move on to the eyes. People have used it to help their eyesight. I talked about this in the last video that we did. There's a couple that I'm in communication with now, and they're in their 70s. They are trying the micropulse for glaucoma, and they are putting it double like this over one eye, and then they will tape it. And they'll sit and listen to music or talk or do whatever they're doing. One of the participants would sleep with the double coils over one eye, and then they would the next night sleep with the coils on the other eye. So for teeth, many people have used it for teeth. Myself, I've used it for a bad tooth I have. I doubled the coils like this, And I have a piece of this clear tape that I like, and I use one piece of tape. The tape isn't uncomfortable on the skin. People have asked about that. It's no problem. And I have worked at my computer, read, watched TV, and I've sat like this for hours. It helped my tooth. So another participant that I interviewed, he said that he took the coils for severe jaw pain that he was having, and he put one underneath the jaw like this and one right here, and then he taped it. He had some kind of injury when he was younger, and he had reoccurring jaw pain. Okay, so moving on. To the thyroid. So the thyroid is a gland right here. A lot of people have hypo or hyperthyroid. If you're somebody who's under a lot of stress, your adrenals will pick up and help with the stress, but then when they give out, the thyroid is the organ that tries to deal with the stress. A lot of people have affected thyroids and they don't know it. So one participant that I spoke with who has low thyroid, hypothyroidism, put the coils right here and they taped it. They also used this type of ACE bandage. You can get this in the pharmacy. It's the sticky kind. And she said she would put the coils there and then she would use one piece of this, wrap it around, and it adheres to itself. I've used this a lot to apply the micropulse. This is a terrific product. So thyroid, then we're going to move on down to the heart. One of the participants, his wife used it for AFib. I've spoken with several people that have used it for AFib. And basically they put the coils side by side and once again taped it, and she left it on for hours. I will say with that you need to check with your doctor. Also, if you have a pacemaker, I cannot recommend that you use it. That's something you would need to talk to your doctor about. But I have spoken with a participant who had a pacemaker who used the micropulse. They didn't have any issues, but I do make a disclaimer here that you would need to talk to your doctor about that. Lungs, an elderly gentleman that I interviewed used it on his lungs and he found great relief. He had walking pneumonia and he had reoccurring respiratory problems for many, many years. And what he did was he would put the micropulse side by side and he would tape it, and then he would use a regular ACE bandage like this. And he would put the ACE bandage around his lung area and the micropulse is taped right there. And he said he would keep it on for 6 to 8 hours. Okay, we're moving down to the ribs. Many people have cracked their ribs, and if you have, you know there's not much that they can do for it. It's extremely painful. One of the participants, his friend, I have a buddy of mine, had cracked a rib from snowboarding. Within a week, he was back riding bikes and running. His doctors and everybody were just amazed. How can you be out running and biking after you cracked your ribs? He used the micropulse and he taped it to his ribs, and somebody else I spoke with also used it for the ribs and they slept with it. So let's talk about that for just a minute. If you're going to sleep with the micropulse, one of the best things to do is to tape the coils to the area and then to use an ACE bandage. And you want to take the wire and you want to fold it up so it's not sticking out, because if it's sticking out, it can pull, and it can pull out of the coils or out of the box. And all of this goes under the ACE bandage, including the box. So what you can do is change the battery. If you want to sleep with it, you can wake up in the middle of the night and change the battery. There have been times when I've slept with it during the night and the battery went for hours. It just depends. There's no exact science for how long the battery will last, but I would keep a charged battery next to my bed. So just make sure if you sleep with it that you put the coils so they're not sticking out. Okay. So we're going to move on now to musculoskeletal. This is one of the main things that people have used the micropulse for. Dr. Dennis, would you like to?
I actually just wanted to make a quick comment, if that's okay.
Please. Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say that many people, probably 24, have told me they've used it for cracked ribs, and every one of them said they were absolutely delighted with the effectiveness.
Mhm.
So that's one of those applications that I feel very confident telling people that that's something that will probably help them a lot, because walking around with cracked ribs with a medical system that says, well, we can't do much about it, you're going to suffer for 6 or 8 weeks. This is one of those applications that makes that a much less dreadful experience.
Yes.
And you're right. Most people tell me within about a week or 10 days, they get tremendous relief.
Mm-hmm. One of the participants I talked to, he said within 4 days he had relief. And
Actually, I've had people tell me as little as 2 or 3, right? And one person was almost like immediate. And I think it's because there wasn't really a crack. It was just kind of a bruise there. But yeah, it's going to vary from person to person. But of the roughly 24 that have told me about it, there's just uniform positive feedback for that application.
Yes. So before musculoskeletal, I would like to show you all how people have used it for the esophagus, GI tract, stomach, menstrual pain, and constipation. So for people with GERDs, they would actually put it on the esophagus and tape it to the esophagus. The other place they would use it is on the actual stomach. So my daughter was having stomach problems. She was constipated constantly. 30 minutes after putting it on her stomach, she had a bowel movement. So this was one individual whose daughter used it for constipation. And in that instance, she would put it on her colon. People have taped it to their stomach for stomach pain and menstrual pain. There was one young lady that I spoke with who had reoccurring menstrual pain her whole life. Medication, she was tired of taking medications, and what she would do is she would tape the coils. She actually put them one on top of the other. Don't forget, it's bumpy side out. She would put it on the area where she had her menstrual cramps. She would use an ACE bandage as well, and she would sleep with it. She said she would wake up in the morning and her menstrual pain was gone.
Did you hear anything from anyone about Crohn's?
No, not.
A number of people have told me, including my sister, actually, that they got really good relief from things related to general gut inflammation and specifically related to Crohn's. A number of people have told me that. There are a number of people who told me they were planning on using it for that, but never got back to me. So I don't know if it's like 100% or 50%. But people who were not getting relief from other things, many of them were telling me, yeah, this was working really pretty well for them. So it's hard for me to assign a probability that it'll work, but it seems to be pretty good.
I would love to speak to people who've used it for Crohn's or diverticulitis. Okay, musculoskeletal. Most of the people that I've spoken with have used the micropulse for musculoskeletal issues: neck, shoulder, ribs, elbows, hands, arthritis, back, hips, knees, ankles, feet, and toes. One participant said, I put the ICES on a friend of mine this weekend while she was working, and I put 2 rubber bands around her wrist and it held the coils. And after 2 or 3 hours, she was 80% better. She was feeling no pain. So we are going to start with the neck. And one participant I spoke with, he would wear the micropulse to work. He would put the coils side by side, bumpy side out on the back of his neck. He actually used a bandana. I have not tried that technique, but he said a bandana worked. And then he would put the coils and the box down through his shirt, and he would put the box inside of his pocket. He would take a battery charger to work. He would switch out the batteries, and he wore it all day at work for neck pain. People have used it for shoulder pain. One nurse I spoke with who was a travel nurse, hospice travel nurse, she would put it on her shoulders and she would tape it to her shoulders, and she would do that while she was driving. That helped her pain. Elbows, people have used it for their elbows. I want to read something to you real quick. I had severe elbow pain for 15 years. I had taken every medication that you could imagine. The doctors seemed to think I might need surgery. I did not want to have surgery. I had used the micropulse for a knee problem I was having. I put it on my elbows, and within 5 days, I was 50% pain-free, and within 8 days, I was 100% pain-free. So what she did is she would double the coils like this, and she taped it to her elbow, and then she put this around it after she had taped it. This comes with the micropulses. This is a very good bandage to hold it in place. I've used it for my elbows and it helped tremendously. So from elbows, we're going to move on down to back. Anything along the spine, it is safe to put the micropulse on the spine. You might need to have somebody help you to tape it to your spine. For bone, it seems to work incredibly well on bone. If you're having any kind of bone pain or bone on bone, one of the ladies I spoke with had hip problems and she applied it to her hip and she would sleep with it. So I want to show you all something real quick. This is a little device that a friend of mine made. They made it through a 3D printer, and it holds the coils of the micropulse in place like this, and then you can tape it to the area. So this particular individual had one of these, and this is how she applied it to her hips. And she would tape it to the hip area, and then she used an ACE bandage and she would sleep with it. One man I spoke with had terrible tailbone pain, and he would wear it to work, and he said he cut a hole in his pants pocket and he would run the wires through the pants pocket. So he had this taped, the wires went through there, and then the box he would have in another pocket. He would wear it all day, and he said that it was the only thing that seemed to help his tailbone pain. Any comment, Dr. Dennis?
Actually, yeah, I've heard similar statements about that for all kinds of musculoskeletal pain, tailbone pain, and of course, I use it all the time for lower back pain. I wear it every day, mostly as a sort of a prophylactic to prevent any kind of, like throwing my back out and everything. Because I was able to go from terrible back pain from my firefighting injury, 12 years ago or so, to, oxycodone would hardly touch it. I was still in a lot of pain with the maximum dose you can take. But using these devices, which I developed mostly because I needed something, right? Tremendously reduced my pain, but it also has this interesting effect that I used to throw my back out a lot, like every time I would lift something or exert. When I use the device, it seems to reduce my spinal pain, and I'm talking about mid backs, upper back and lower, like lumbar, below. But when I use it on my lower back, nothing in my back gets thrown out anymore. It's very
How do you apply it to your lower back?
Sometimes I put it side by side across the spine, not along the spine. You'd think, oh, that's great, it goes along your spine, but that actually seems to aggravate it, cause more pain. So I put them like side by side across the spine, or I'll stack them bumpy side to bumpy side, tape them together, which is what I'm doing right now, and then put it right over where the source of pain would be on my lower spine, which is about L4, L5, but there's no pain there right now, none at all, because I've been wearing it all morning, and it just kind of stops that. And I'm able to go out and do stuff like I'm moving all the stuff out of our garage and everything downstairs, no problem. But without the device, I couldn't even hope to do that.
Okay, I thought that it was bumpy sides out like this. Is that how you do it?
The best way to stack them, the best way to stack the coils to make it easy to remember is you always use the coils bumpy sides, not touching the skin. You always use them outwards. So if you're putting them side by side, bumpy sides, both of them away from the skin. And that makes the magnetic field add up so that you get this sort of donut shaped magnetic field like this. Then when you stack them, put them bumpy side to bumpy side, just sort of like poker chips, right? And then when you tape them together, you'll get a really good field. If you do it the wrong way, you'll still get a field that's reduced by about 60 or 70%. It still works for most people. But if you stack them the right way, which is bumpy to bumpy, and then just tape them together that way, then you get the maximum field depth.
Okay, that is
That's
good.
the best way to do it, really. You can do it a lot of different ways. You can, have them on opposite sides, but in that case, again, you have them bumpy sides out on this side, bumpy sides out on that side. And the reason for that is that think of these as like instantaneous magnets. They flash on, and on one side, when it flashes on, the bumpy side is north, and the other coil, the bumpy side is a south magnetic field. And then they alternate. So it's not one way or the other, it's both. But they only do it for 0.02 of a second. It flashes on. And if you put them the right way, it's sort of like stacking magnets, right? If you flip one the wrong way, they push apart. But what you want to do is pull together so they concentrate the field.
Okay.
That's what you're doing. You really you do it by the polarity where you stack magnets. And in this case, the bumpy sides are opposing magnetic poles. So you want to always have if you're going to stack them, put the bumpy sides together.
Okay, great. Good to know. One man said a lot of sacral pain I had in the L3, L4 area. It was excruciating pain, and no one could tell me what it was from. So I started wearing the MicroPulse 8 to 10 hours a day. So he would put them side by side. He would have his wife tape it to the area. He used an ACE bandage after that to adhere the whole thing, and he wore this to work. He had great relief after years and years of sacral pain. We are going to talk about knees. How many people out there have had knee issues? Really seems to be an ailment of the aging. I've talked to a lot of people who have had knee pain, who've had knee surgery, who need knee surgery. One lady I spoke with who was in her 70s, and this was a couple of months ago, she was going to have knee surgery, and she had the MicroPulse already. She decided to try it on her knees. I put the unit on my knee at the bottom, and I was wearing it every day from September to Christmas, about 4 or 5 months. Every day I was wearing it 10 to 20 hours a day. I was just changing the batteries. I used it on the high setting. And she was having major issues with her kneecaps. So I don't know if you can see, but for the knees, you can just put them where the pain is and tape it. That's the best way to do it for the knees. I've tried it on my knees as well, and I've tried it with the different ACE bandages, and I found that the tape works best. You can experiment with the different things to adhere the coils to your area. But like I said, for the knees, the tape is really one of the best things. So another gentleman here used the MicroPulse for his knees, and he actually had this one, the C5, and this comes with multiple coils. This one plugs into the wall. This is the grand dame of the MicroPulse, and he loved this one. And what he would do is he would put some of the coils on one knee and the other 4 coils on the other knee. He would tape it. He would watch TV at night for hours, and he said both of his knees improved. He was able to lightly jog again, and he was able to play pickleball again. So can we talk about the C5 for just a minute, Dr. Dennis?
Sure, absolutely. What would you like to know?
Well, like I said, he put the coils on the two different knees. Is that okay to do that? Can you separate?
Absolutely. Yeah,
coils?
the idea of a C5 is that it's actually like it's identical internally to the circuits for 4 separate M1 units. So if you can imagine 4 M1s,
Mhm,
each one's independent, and
mhm.
each one's independently powered, but they're synchronized. So it's always the same pulse output. They're always synchronized. So you can add them together for more power if you want. You can spread them out for a larger area, or you can use them on different points on your body. You can have one on your head, one on your foot, one on an elbow, one on your back, one pair of coils on your back. So that's how it's built, but it's always synchronized so that you can add them together and they won't interfere, or you
Okay,
can use them in different points on your body, and it's not like they're different. They're giving the same pattern even if they're far apart.
okay. And how come the C5 doesn't have a battery? That was a question that somebody had asked me. Why is it just
Because batteries are a problem, and batteries above a certain capacity, 2000 milliamp hours, are a real problem.
Mhm.
And you can't ship anything. I mean, we've had all kinds. I'd say 80 to 90% of our problems shipping things relate to batteries.
Mm.
So we try to make these so that you can power them from somewhere else. You can power them from a USB charger port, not not necessarily a USB data port to a computer, because it can't deliver enough current. It's got to be able to deliver about 2 amps. But you
Mhm.
can use these power bank batteries. They look sort of like they're about this big, and you can plug in a USB into them, and then plug a USB. It'll deliver 5 volts, up to maybe 2 amps into the C5. So you can actually use them with a battery if you want to. You just need the appropriate USB cable, which is a USB port to a 3.5 millimeter barrel connector. You can do that. And
Okay.
so there's a lot of ways to do this. I use it at night. The thing about a C5 is they are portable. They're not really easily wearable.
Mhm.
And there are some people who go to great lengths to wear them, but most people do what I do, which is you plug it in to the wall somewhere, and you lie down or you sit down with it for a few hours. But
Mhm.
most people don't wear them around. And
Mhm.
like I say, if we put a battery on it, then 80 or 90% of our work would be managing all the problems related to batteries. They make airlines blow up, and they do all kinds of terrible things, and you can't ship them over international boundaries and all kinds of things like that.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying that. So I'm just going to tell you one thing about using the micropulse on the knees. Several individuals that I spoke with used it on the back of their knees.
Different people, knees are really kind of tricky. I will tell you this. I used it on my left knee, and it works best for me if I use it on opposite sides, bumpy sides out on each side, across the knee from internal to external, sort of medial to lateral surface. Some people like the stack, works best for them to stack the coils over their patella, or to
Mhm.
go front and back across the knee. Some people use them side by side on one side or the other, or the back or the front. And you really need to experiment with it, because the way to think about positioning the coils is that what you're doing is you're redirecting the magnetic field in
Mm.
space. It will pierce through the center of each coil. And if they're side by side, it'll pierce through and form a toroid, like a bagel. But if they're lined up like this and they're separated, it'll pierce through the center of both of them and form sort of like a football, American
Mm.
football or a rugby ball between them. It
Mhm.
kind of bulges out in the center and then gets narrow again. And what you're doing by placing the coils literally is you're reorienting the magnetic field. And it is known, and the orientation of the magnetic field tells you through calculus the direction of the induced electric field. And it is known scientifically that different tissues in different locations along long bones respond differently to different directions of electric.
Oh.
Yes, this has actually been known since the 60s. And they used to do experiments where they would kind of dissect away muscle and stuff and put platinum electrodes around long bones. And if you run current along the length of the bone, it helps it to heal. And, but if you run it across, it doesn't work as well. But the thing is that you can't really calculate the right answer for yourself for any given injury, because different injuries require different field polarizations too. Same person, same anatomic location. If it's a different injury, it requires something different. And you should try different coil placements, see what gives you the most relief. And it sounds like that would take forever, but almost everybody gets it exactly right within 3 or 4 tries.
And that's a really good point you bring up, is that different people have experimented with the coils in different places and they found what works for them. So if you have a micropulse and you're using it, you need to find what works for your body. I just want to show you one more time the things that you can use to adhere the micropulse to the body. So this is my favorite. This is a thick, clear tape. I got this from the pharmacy, and it's a medical tape. I find it's the best one, and it doesn't hurt my skin. This is usually the one I recommend also to elderly who have more tender, thin skin. This is the type of ACE bandage. It sticks to itself. This is a terrific product to use for the coils. I always have an ACE bandage because I will fold up the wires and put the little box within the ACE bandage after I've adhered the coils. This comes with the micropulse, and this is a terrific product as well. And last, I want to show you something. So these are some thick rubber bands, and several of the participants that I spoke with, they actually use these rubber bands. One man used them to put the coils on his wrist and on his hand. He found that the rubber bands worked better than tape. I have tried this myself, and I actually agree with him. So it's the thick type of rubber bands.
So could I make a couple comments real quick? Right,
Yes.
on what you just said. So yeah, another good way to keep them tightly located on some part of your body is, like, I use a snug pair of socks if I want to use it on my feet or toes. And you know, you could use it in a glove or something. And another thing is you can buy these nylon caps that are kind of snug, and they're just really cheap. You can get them like 6 for like $10 or something on Amazon. And you can just put the coils in there. They're not electrodes, they're coils, wherever you want them. And if these caps can be pretty snug fitting, and they just hold things right where you want them. You just put them right in, slide them right in. Some people use them on top of their head. A lot of people like me use them around the sides. Another thing that we do is take an old pair of reading glasses, pop out the lens, and then you can tape a coil around the lens, and you can wear them like eyeglasses.
That's a great idea.
Actually, that was actually Bill Pollock's idea for using our system. And
it'll work from that distance?
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, it'll easily go past the eye, even if it's like a half an inch off the eye. So you can wear them just like you're, either a monocle or like reading glasses. You can go like this. And imagine that I popped the lenses out and then just taped or, affixed these. And we have around the house here, I don't have it right with me, but a pair of glasses that just have coils on them, and use them for ourselves and our kids and everything. Another thing is that sometimes positioning the coils, it seems like it would make sense, like around your thumb. Oh, okay, just put it like that. But that doesn't seem, for probably 90% of people, that doesn't seem to work as well as using it as a sandwich, like on your hand, bumpy side out, and either stacking them or using them on opposite sides, like above and below. It's hard to show when you're using it on hand. But yeah, imagine putting your hand in between there, or your thumb in between there. It seems logical, like you'd use it around your finger. It doesn't seem to work very well, but like on your foot or your hand, sandwiching it like that, right over where it's painful, seems to be really effective for most people. And those are kind of the comments that I would add just to your head to toe list.
Great ideas. Well, in the next video, we will talk about some other disorders, including we'll go on talk about some more musculoskeletal issues, muscle We will talk about using the micropulse for genitourinary issues, bladder, erectile dysfunction, BPH, and some other conditions. Also, in the next video, we will go over this card, which talks about the different programs. And Dr. Dennis can explain some of the reasons why there are the different programs.
I will be happy to.
I've
I'll
had a
be
lot
happy
of questions about this, and different people have experimented with the different programs, and they found that the different programs work for different issues. So we'll get into that in more detail in the next video. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Dr. Dennis, for your time today.
Thank you, Dr. Raven. And it was wonderful once again talking with you. And we will see you on the next video.